Welcome to the Oh So Spurs podcast. In this new edition of the White Hart Lane Weekly, Joe and I are joined by two extremely interesting guests. We've got someone working in youth football for a large established club in London. I don't know if I'll say any more, Glenn, but how are you?
Yep, really good. Thanks for having me on.
Good, great to have you. And we have our winner of your favourite guest from the last season, an A-licensed coach in JJ. How are you, JJ?
I'm good, thanks, Jim.
And I have the wonderful co-host for this new format in Joe. How are you, Joe?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Morning here, unlike you guys. So I'm a professional human being, so that's my profession. So
professional Spurs fan.
Professional Spurs fan, big skills in that. So I'll add some value to this as well.
There we go, mate. There we go. Shall we, Joe? I'll hand over to you. Where are we kicking off today?
Well, the most interesting thing that's happened, isn't it, is the Reading game. So I guess we can ask these guys who have a bit of knowledge about football what they thought of the game. And I think maybe let's start from the back. We can go through the lineup, but we'll look at the defense first. And we have Kinski starting with nearly our full back four in front of him, except Danso for Van der Ven. So a fairly solid back four there. But let's go to you, JJ, first. How do you think and why do you think Kinski was starting, and also his performance as well?
Yeah, I think there was a bit of, I've seen a bit of confusion as to whether, Vicario was due to start the game and there was a last minute change and things like that. I had a think about it and I thought to myself, it made sense in my head that with the back four that was sitting in front and then with the double pivot that we had of Sarr and Bentancur, I felt like they wanted to have a look at Kinski playing out with that particular backline. And as you say, it was only really the change of Danso from our first choice back four. So my feeling is that they rather wanted to have a look at that, and therefore it was either just a like a clerical administrative error. They just literally wrote down the wrong name on the wrong team sheet, or it was done wrong at the side of the pitch. I don't read anything more into it than that, right? I don't see anything deeper than that. But yeah, from my perspective, whether it was just a fault on a piece of paper or whether it was carefully thought out, which is where I'm leaning, I would have thought it was much more on that side of things. It was interesting to see. It was interesting to see Kinski playing behind that back four and the midfield that was put in front of it, and how they were going to generate, how they were going to develop possession and play through the phases. And I don't think we came out with any great surprises, right? Kinski is the better of our keepers with the ball at feet. He's much better with distribution. He wasn't perfect. He looked rusty. He got a few wrong, but he is very, very confident and competent with his feet. And that gives the manager something to think about in terms of, would he even consider, and this is very, very rare, right? We don't see this a lot. Would he even consider different keepers for different opposition? I very much doubt it. I think he'll settle on a first team keeper, but separating, a league keeper and a cup keeper, certainly that's quite common. So it'd be interesting to see what Frank does with that.
So moving a bit further down up the pitch, I'm interested to put this one to you, Glenn, because you work in football professionally, part-time and support youth footballers in particular, and identify youth footballers for a major club. Like Mikey Moore's one that always comes up and like kind of divides the fans a bit of, should he be starting more? Should he be getting a loan? Do we expect too much of him in games? I'm kind of keen to get your thoughts because he started, which is brilliant to see, right? We all love to see our academy players. What did you make of Mikey's performance? And do you think he'll be one that we keep in the upcoming season, or do you think he'll end up on loan somewhere?
So in the game itself, I like his bravery. I like that he's not afraid to run at players, try things, even if there was one point where he could have passed Udogie and he went on the run and took two players, got to the byline. Decision making probably wasn't the best in that situation, but obviously split seconds. I think he kind of went for a shot stroke cross. I'm not sure kind of what he went for, but he's not afraid to just kind of try things. And I think from Thomas Frank's press conference, he said he wanted bravery, and he's got that in abundance. So I think he he has to play, and if he's not going to play, then he has to go on loan to gain that experience. But going on loan has to be the right way, and it has to be a club where it's a similar philosophy of what Thomas Frank wants to play. Otherwise, we don't really gain anything from him just playing minutes in a different system, I don't think. So for me, I think if we're successful in 4 competitions, he potentially stays and will play in games as and when, because I think they will probably rotate quite heavily. If he's not going to play, then yeah, he has to go out on loan.
Minutes are key, aren't they? That's the
100%.
kind of ultimate thing for a young footballer. Is we always have this debate, and we're going to get onto it later with Vuskovic as well. But it's like all these players. It's like there's so much promise, but sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit now for the better of that player by allowing someone else to have them in that squad and be a more prevalent member of that squad, right?
I think obviously every player's different, but you look at Harry Kane and he went on 4 or 5 different loans. Some did work, some didn't work. But all of those situations obviously grounded him and give him different learning environments to be the player he is now. So I think they can be good. If he's not going to play and he's only going to play 21s, then he should be playing where it matters in competitive football.
Joe, I think you're the next. But anyway, you were going to ask around some of these other players, weren't you, on this topic?
Yeah, we can. There's also, I mean, a few young guys played, and I think Devine was interesting. What I noticed about him was, in structure-wise too, there was a moment in the first half, obviously, when he played, that he was kind of on the left, and so was Solanke, and Solanke stayed there, and Devine went and pressed on the right-hand side, and it looked like they were kind of in a 4-2-2 or a 2 at the front. And then he was making a lot of runs in behind. Like, he kept making runs, and I was wondering if maybe he knew he was playing half an hour, so he could put that much effort in, or half a game, so he could put that much effort in. But I thought he was pretty good. He was playing a few balls through. JJ, what did you think of Devine's performance? How do you think he played? It was the first time we've really seen him in a long time since really Mourinho days. I mean, other pre-seasons he's played, but this was really, he got a start and he was really involved, I thought.
Yeah, he did. He did quite well. He certainly came out, of the young players. He certainly was one of those that put a case forward in this game. I think system-wise, he definitely showed that playing in that kind of more advanced role in the midfield, he showed what Thomas Frank is going to want from a number 10 style player, pushing in and providing an extra number, running into the channels, running into the half spaces. So he did do that in the first half. There was a couple of occasions where he had underlapping runs that were, found, and then, trying to cut the ball across the box, maybe a little bit of delay on it, and he might have beaten the first man, and little bits and pieces like that. But he put in a good effort. There was a couple of moments where he was a little bit deeper, where he wasn't quite on the same wavelength as other players. There was a ball where I think he was expecting Solanke to drop in to come and get it, and he played a ball just into an empty midfield because Solanke had turned and gone away. So again, it's about the timing of putting his head down and when he's playing that ball. These are the kind of things that will come. And again, it's exactly the same conversation, even though he's a little bit older and he's had much more first team football, having played a season at Westerlo. He needs continued minutes. So it's very interesting whether Thomas Frank sees enough over the next kind of 3 or 4 games to think actually he could be a midfield backup player who's going to get minutes this season. And again, that might also come down to who we sign. It might come down to transfers coming in. But yeah, overall, my feeling on it is that he had a decent first game of pre-season. And again, we should caveat everything we say and every, opinion on here with the fact that this was the first pre-season game.
Yeah, a few guys seemed a bit rusty across the whole board, and just to be obvious that's going to happen. Another guy who kind of didn't really see rusty, or we don't know if that's rust or what it is because we've never seen him before, but he is massive. Glenn, what did you think of Vuskovic's first appearance in a Spurs shirt? That half an hour was pretty eventful.
I thought it was a dream day.
Ooh, lost.
There, obviously assisted the first goal.
you getting the same audio issue, guys? Or yeah, we've lost your audio there, Glenn. You might need to drop off and rejoin. Sounds like you're on a Star Wars episode. We'll see you back in a second. But yeah, we'll come back to Vuskovic in a moment because his thing was massive. But should we talk about Kudus just first? Because wow, I feel I've been craving a player who does that thing where your bum elevates off your seat when they get the ball. And we've had so many brilliant players at Spurs over the last 10 years. We've been very blessed to have them. But even a brilliant player like Kane, when he gets it, my bum doesn't come off my seat. He does magical things. He's a wonderful player. But Kudus has that, right? And yeah, JJ, I was keen to get your views on him and his performance. Does he offer us something differently we've missed, or am I just imagining this?
Yeah, he definitely does, right? He's that take-on specialist, that 1v1 specialist. He's exciting, he's dynamic, and it's the kind of player that when he's on, and again, he was playing against a League One side. This is not Premier League opposition, so we have to kind of wait and see how he starts putting it down. But he clearly was up for it. And when I was looking into Kudus, for the videos that we did about him, one of the things that I was really impressed with was just how quick off the mark he is, just how dynamic he is, and the fact that he's willing to do that going both ways. He's willing to come back and he's willing to put that in. And I think that's definitely something that Thomas Frank is going to want. So that talent, that ability, that dynamism is the stuff that's going to be exciting, right? We want to see him faced up 1v1 against defenders or with the ball pushed out in front of him and really getting after it and really stretching opposition players. That's why he's been brought in. That's the kind of role that he's going to occupy. It's not really something anyone else has got at the moment at the club. Maybe Odobert has a bit of that in his game. But I think it's it really is a signing that the fans can get behind. And if he can hit the ground running, he looks fit and he looks sharp already, that's going to grow. That's going to continue. If he can start doing exciting stuff in games, he's going to very quickly endear himself to the fans. And he's worked hard on that in the social media and stuff to kind of get the Tottenham fans on his side. So he is very exciting.
Yeah, I get those kind of Aaron Lennon vibes. I know they're completely different players in many, many senses, but just in the sense that they both can just run at anyone and just cause havoc against any kind of opposition, no matter what that defender is or fullback up against them. So it is super exciting. I'll try bring you back in, mate. Let's can you try say hello? See if it works. I think your audio's still a bit broken there. Might need to restart your phone. But we'll get you back on. We'll get you back on shortly.
With Kudus, I was curious. I was thinking maybe this is a preseason game and he really wanted to show something and was really up for it. But I was wondering, every single time he got the ball, he was trying to hold someone off and beat the man every single time. And that's entertaining. I don't really want someone to stop doing that. But I'm wondering if maybe League One, first game of the season or first preseason game that he wanted to show. And he's like, I've got the better of these guys because obviously of the talent range that they can attract in different leagues. But do you think it could be a possibility, JJ, that he does that too much? Like he always wants to beat a man and can leave us in positions where we've got too far forward? Or is the stability that our sort of structure showed in that Reading game? Because I felt like when under Ange, it would be like, if we turn the ball over here, we are in so much trouble. And that was every 3 minutes, it felt like. But in this game, it felt like, we can turn the ball over here and we're going to be completely fine. So do you think that gives him more of a chance to actually take those risks when he gets the ball?
I think that this was definitely a game where we weren't particularly threatened, right? I felt like Reading didn't create anything all the way to the 91st minute. So, he could definitely do that. He could take those risks and he could do that kind of thing. That's what he's in the side to do. So, you do want him taking players on. You do want him doing a bit of the Dembele, attracting the physical pressure and turning players and breaking through. He did that a couple of times to really great effect. we want him taking players on wide right, but we also, and I think this is going to happen a lot, we also are going to see him cutting in and being in that number 10 position. So he's going to have to be the kind of player that can beat the first man. I don't necessarily see him as a number 10 stitching the play together with short and quick passing. I see him being a ball carrier in that sense. And so, yeah, we're going to want to see that. And it's at the elite level, if he's now going to make that step up into a, Champions League playing, competing team, and a team that wants to compete for titles and for trophies, that's where he's got to take his game. So he's got to get rid of some of the inconsistency that we definitely could have looked back at his West Ham time, and he's got to bring it every single game, and he's got to be able to put it down and be successful. So regardless of how well structured the team is behind him, he's still going to need to show that he can beat his man consistently without conceding possession, and then he's got the pass or he's got the finish at the end of it.
Yeah. Glenn, I think we got you back. Vuskovic.
Yeah, don't know what happened there. Apologies, guys.
It happens. It's technology. It's always it's got its flaws. All good, mate. We got you back. We were itching to ask you about Vuskovic though, because he's one that, as someone who works in youth football, again, you must see it all the time where you can get very carried away very quickly, get very excited by players on, one-off performances, but it's how they perform over a season and what's best for their development, what's best for their personality, what's best for their bodies. There's all these things to consider, but he's a huge guy for his age, right? I don't think anyone's concerned about him physically needing time to catch up with his peers, but he had a great half-hour spell for us, and people are kind of saying, cancel the loans, get him into the first team. He should be knocking on the door of Romero and Van der Ven. What did you make of his performance? Do you think he's one we'll keep around, or do you think we'll loan him out? Oh, we lost your audio again. It's cut out again for some reason. We'll sort it out. JJ, I'll lob it to you then for the moment while Glenn gets sorted. What do you reckon?
Oh, I'm disappointed because I've been waiting to hear what Glenn's got to say from his perspective as well.
We'll get him back to figure it out.
Vuskovic, he's an interesting one. He, as you rightly said, the physicality is one of those where he could be an early bloomer. That seems evident, given the size. He's a real unit, and he's already massive at the age of 18. He's very physically developed. It doesn't mean that he's finished. It could continue. And again, at the age of 18, even between that age of 18 and 21, additional growth causes its own challenges as well for a player. So, it could actually destabilize him as much as, everyone wants to think he's the Incredible Hulk and he just gets bigger and therefore he gets better and, can, win every header that ever comes his way. But, these growth patterns, they happen in different ways. They affect players in different ways. He evidently has grown into himself really, really well. He's physically imposing. We saw that with the header that he won for Will Lankshire's goal. He can certainly hold his own on that side of the game. The side of the game that we really want to see a bit more of, and because I certainly haven't got enough minutes of watching him at Westerlo to know this, is he occasionally looks like he's just a second behind in identifying in a defensive position, in identifying what's about to happen. He's watching the game and he's reacting to it live, as opposed to actually, and this is what the best defenders can do, is they've got the sense of how things are going to unfold because they've seen it time and time again, and therefore they can be a little bit more reactive to it. There was an element to that for me that he was a little bit at times, just off it in terms of his defensive positioning from that perspective. And it didn't look like he was the greatest in terms of first touch and progressing the ball with the ball at feet, or his passing. It didn't look sharp. It didn't look as crisp as maybe it needs to be. So there's plenty of work that can be done with him. But in terms of going into your first competitive game for your new club that you signed for 2 years ago, it couldn't really have gone much better for him, right? He's got himself a goal line block, even though Vicario might might have put his hand up and said, "Get out my way, that's mine. I can deal with that better than you." And then he's got himself an assist and quickly followed that with a really nice finish. So delighted to see that in an attacking sense, he had calmness and composure and a really good, technical side foot finish into the side netting. It was nicely done, nicely executed.
I think we've got you back now, Glenn, as well.
How does that sound?
Yeah, we got you back, mate. We got you back. So go. Oh, no, I think is it crackling up again? Try, go for it. See if we got you.
Yeah, I can hear the crackling myself as well.
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with the mic. Unfortunately, you might have to try on a different device or something. But yeah, well, I'll message you separately on the WhatsApp just now. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just, the thing with him is I get concerned that if we do what's best for us in the very, very short term and go, let's keep him around for the sake of just seeing how it goes in the hope that maybe he can come on in a cup game and have a performance like that, you risk missing out on 6 months development in a loan period where he could have gone somewhere and really kicked on and had a huge opportunity to become a key player for another squad in that season. Because if you're gonna find it harder to find him a key role in another squad starting in January than you would saying to another club, you can build your plans over a season with this person from the off, and that would be better for his development as a person. But and I think I'm a bit biased because we have Elias on, who is a journalist for Westerlo, his loanee club from last season. And when we brought him on, we've all been like, I can't wait for this guy to gas him up and tell us how perfect he is. And he comes on and goes, no, he's good, but he's got some things he needs to work on. You're going, what? But scoring 8 goals isn't typically a metric you should focus solely on with a centre back. There's other things for a centre back you should be focused on, and those areas. I'm not saying he's poor in them, but he's 18 years old. He's got development to focus on in those areas, and maybe if you put him in against Liverpool when he's got 3 world-class forwards pressing the hell out of him and not giving him an inch on the ball, you could expose him, knock his confidence, and knock his development back. Not a dig at him at all. It just is what it is.
I guess there's different types of development too, because being at the club though will expose him to the highest level of professionalism. So he'll get exposure, and then being in England, with his interviews, obviously English is great that we've heard him speak, so he can handle that. And I mean, he's 18, so whether he stays for a year here and does a Mikey Moore-esque thing where he's just around the club and getting exposure, that kind of level, and then maybe goes out on loan again. I think I'm with you on that, JJ, that it's the speed he needs to get used to. Like he looked a little bit slow, but that could be that he wasn't anticipating the speed. But I'm not sure. I wonder where the line is between the Belgium League and League One. Like, are they comparable in speed wise? I mean, I don't know. I don't really watch either of them. So I think, maybe it was just the speed of the play that he will have the most shock with, especially in the Premier League. So I think maybe exposing him to that and just having a year around the club could be just as beneficial for him than having a year out at, say, West Brom's the one that everyone wants to be at loan to at the moment, isn't it? Because of Mason. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do. We've got a lot of centre backs. Dragusin out for half the year at least, probably, it looks like. So, and it'd be interesting. Ben Davis playing on the left was interesting too, so on left back. So, interesting to see where I would probably want to see Phillips go out again. I'm less interested
Phillips,
in him.
definitely, yeah. He didn't even get a minute, did he? I think that's telling. When you're not getting minutes in a friendly, it's not looking too promising. And that's why I think, JJ, you've got the same sense as well, like with the Kinski one. If a player's thrown straight into a starting 11, when there's no reason for the previous number, for the other player in that option not to be in that starting 11, it's a sign to me they want to quickly evaluate something. And I'm not saying it's as extreme as I need to know who my new number 1 is. It could be purely, I want to just check up on a few things on Kinski. I've got some assumptions, I've got some views, but I want to put them into an environment where I can clarify some of my, thoughts around this player. And the standout thing yeah, with him, we know his distribution was different. But yeah, I think there was some signs in that starting 11. Certain players like Phillips not being in it at all and not coming on at all, just to me says you're probably going on loan out again quite quickly. Although, guys, Richarlison was quickly squashed as Frank mentioned his presser, and we'll kind of start moving towards the press conference. He mentioned Richarlison is in his plans for next season, didn't he? Did you guys watch the press conference?
He basically said that he needed more time to get back to the right level. That was sort of the summed up, which is interesting because why is he unique to the other guys? Because he played the end of the season. He wasn't injured or anything. Am I missing something with what was wrong with his fitness for the end of last season compared to the other guys like Slanky?
Well, he went off injured in the final, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah.
I was too busy chewing my nails to worry about who was injured in that game. Well, there you go. Then that makes sense. Then
we got Glenn back, I think. Got you, Glenn? Hear us good? I think you can hear us now. But yeah, he got injured in in the final and then came off, and I think he's only just recovering from that now. So bit frustrating for him. What else did you guys pick up from the press conference? Because he talked about he was pleased with a positive start. Boxes were ticked. There's lots of areas of improvement still. He reiterated his style of play, including aggression, and he wants to see more of that. Is there anything in particular you guys picked out from the press conference and after that game that stood out to you as things that you're thinking are important to take note of?
Not really for me. It's just kind of standard responses. As watching the style of the game was probably the more interesting part. Can I ask a question to one of the coaches, Jim?
Go for it. Yeah.
I noticed that when we had the possession, we would shift to, in the first half especially, we would shift to a back three, and that doggy would go way further forward, and Porro would sit a bit deeper, and Danso would obviously shift across a bit. Do you think that is an indication that we definitely need another left back in if we're going to play like that and have that sort of in possession back three, rotate up and have a doggy go forward, which actually I felt impacted Moore a little bit because Moore then couldn't really play as wide. He was further inside, and it took him a while to get used to that, I felt. But yeah, do you think we definitely need to bring in another left back if we're going to have a specific strategy around that? Or do you reckon we could just go either side and make it, we go to the right-hand side and that player goes forward in different games?
I'd probably pass that one to JJ. Do you think we still need a left back then, JJ, based on that? Based on the front?
I would say, and it's not for me anyway. It's going to be quite hard to say off that first game, but I don't think that's just going to be on one side. I think if you look at the arguably the two starting fullbacks, Porro and Udogie, obviously Jed Spence fighting it for one of those spots. They are perfectly capable of both doing exactly the same thing. Then it will depend on who's playing in the three or who the wide forwards are and what we're doing in the number 10 as well. So for me, I think we can do that on both sides. And to the point about how we're going to build out of the back, what we did see one of the midfielders in the first half successfully dropping in and the two centre-backs splitting to provide that kind of central quarterback. Now, at Brentford, Thomas Frank has very successfully also done that with one of the midfielders dropping into either the left centre-back or the right centre-back spot with the three at the back, and then allowed one of his fullbacks to go really, really high and the other one to advance a little bit to provide a broken line to be able to progress the ball. So I do think he's going to continue to work that. But for me, I think he'll do it on both sides. I don't think this is mainly focused on Udogie on the left-hand side. I think it's something that he's going to continue to work on, and we're probably going to see the same kind of thing coming down the right as well.
Do you want to guys do a quick shout out to Kem in the comments and Sean the Gooner Slayer, two of our legend members.
Oh, the boys.
They're back. Kem, no, funny story here. I also thought, because I saw Kem's picture of Bill Nick from a distance, a bit like how I thought Paul O'Keefe was Bill Nick for a long time. Kem, I thought, was going to be that image. And then comes up to me I was outside the South Stand having a beer, and comes up to me and says, I bet you'll never guess who I am. This lady comes up to me and I go, no idea. It was Kem. So there you go. Never trust the profile pictures.
You've been catfished.
I've been catfished. Bill Nick won. That was a brave
Nick
play there,
catfish.
Cam. Brave play. But there you go.
You're going to have about 10 Bill Nicks in your DMs tonight. Be like, hey, can you send me £20, please?
Yeah, no to get me. I do want to quickly touch on the club grown and homegrown, because a lot of people are saying like you've got to keep these players for the club grown status and the homegrown status. Please challenge me on this if you disagree, guys. But two things on that. One, my understanding of the rules is 3 years before the age of 21 to be club grown, you have to play for your club, but one of those years can be out on loan for another FA registered club. So Vuskovic could go out on loan and still become club grown. JJ, you're nodding. Is that right? Do you know if that's right?
And again, it's been a little while since I was in the system, but that is my understanding. So it's 18 to 21. You have to be at your parent football club to become club trained. So nothing to do with homegrown and your nationality, to be club trained, and you are allowed to go on loan in that period. And my understanding is that any of those years, so it doesn't matter when you do it, you can go on loan, but you can't go on loan overseas. That's my understanding of it. But
okay,
people who know this better than me, and Glenn, where are you, Glenn? We need you.
We
people who know this better than me,
one, yeah. Oh, he's
come
back,
in and correct us.
Can you hear us, Glenn? Are you there? Can you hear us? We can see your mouth moving, but I think you've got the wrong mic selected. If you change your mic to whatever this is. But we have a great question for you.
We desperately need you, Glenn.
We need you for this one. We need you for this one. Yeah, so there's that. There's the club. But also, there's no point having a club trained player if you've just, for example, I can't imagine what kind of player you're going to have if you've spent for the 3 core years of development, they've just sat in the squad for the sake of becoming. I think we've got you now, Glenn. Can you say something?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Got it. We got you clearly. But we were going to ask you, do you know the rules around club train? Because we were just discussing Vuskovic. Is it 3 years before they turn 21, but 1 year's allowed out on loan? As long as it's
yes. So I believe it's if you're. I think what JJ said is correct. I did hear. I was sort of listening, and yeah, you can. It's 3 years, 18s to 21s, and you can go out on loan within that time, but it has to be within the UK. It can't be overseas. So I think that's exactly what JJ said. That's correct.
Got it. Okay. We had another good question, guys, on this topic of loans. Aside from Kane, can we think of any other player that Spurs have had that's gone out on loan, really benefited from those loans, and come back and had a core role in our squad? Because it's a good question. I can't think of any off the top of my head that spring to mind. And that's not to say loans don't work, because we've had good players
I would
loans
say
and be sold, but
the boys that went out to Orient obviously had a good season, but they haven't proved themselves with the club yet. But obviously, they definitely exceeded expectations to sort of make the playoff final and just missed out at the last hurdle. But obviously, the goalkeeper's now moved on. But yeah, the other lad that played, is it Dorrington or is it
Donnelly?
Donnelly, sorry. Yeah, so he had Dorrington went to Aberdeen, didn't he? Yeah, so he had a really good season at Orient, but obviously time will tell whether that will work out or not, depending on what happens with us.
I honestly can't think of anyone, but it's actually hard to think of anyone that even made it from our academy to be even a different club. Matawaki, he was at us, wasn't he, for like a year?
Yeah.
Maybe. So he but he hasn't really set the world alight. He's just been pretty good. But even just anyone that's come through our academy that's then gone on at a different club to be.
There's one with us at the moment. Kieran Morgan. He was at Spurs and he had a good first season at QPR. So yeah, he's only 18 himself, but has played quite a few minutes in our first team last season. So no, he done really well.
And just a quick pause, I'd say, can you please click the like button? We've got 500 people tuned in currently watching this live and only 32 likes. So there you go. We need more people to click on that button to help us out. But yeah, there has been an uptick. People have said it in the comments, Will, about like a bigger focus on loans in general from our fan base. Do you think that's just because we're getting to a size of club where you you kind of expect to have players that are already developed in your first 11, and you've got less, you can be less giving to the idea of a player making the mistakes in a Spurs shirt, just because when you want to be in the Champions League, is that just how it is? You've got to let go of that being a thing that you just bring through your own players of the academy and you get behind them because you can't develop them and get away with it? Or do you think there's still a world which you can?
It could be that one of the things that people say about Tottenham is, we've got a great stadium, we've got a great training centre and academy, so we kind of expect to have players come through that academy. But also at the same time, there's been a bit of a focus on it for the last 2 years, 3 years maybe. It's really sort of tried to push it. So we have a lot of young guys, so maybe it's just the fact that we have a lot of young guys at the moment. But I'm just talking from outside, maybe Glenn, with the knowing a bit more about academies. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think we're
just frozen.
I think we're frozen.
Frozen this time.
We're gonna start one of those top chat. You can do this thing now where you set a target for a monetary amount, and everyone donates. We're gonna get Glenn full fibre to the premise broadband sorted by the next episode, or Starlink if you can't get it. Oh, he's back. You hear us, Glenn? I think we've just lost him again.
Every type of technical difficulty could happen. JJ, what do you think?
So yeah, I'll take it in return because I was just looking up. I was going kind of back into more of my old days, kind of on the grass with these kind of things in terms of loans. I was just looking at a few of the old boys. Andros Townsend, depending on how successful you think his career has been, he went on an absolute host of loans when he was with us. And he did okay. He did bits and pieces, and there was. And back then, actually, we were doing quite well with it. We brought through quite a few of the academy boys, and we were using the loan system to develop them as well. But in terms of where we are now, I don't think you can afford to sleep on your academy as one of the big six sides. I don't think you can do it, and all the advantages that you have as one of the bigger sides for signing players directly into the first team, you have those same advantages with being able to attract talent over the age of 18 to your academy as well, in terms of the resources and the pool. And the one thing that you have to prove is a pathway, and players like Archie Gray can help with that, because obviously he was signed for a huge amount of money, and when you sign for that kind of money, that you're going to be included in the first team squad. But showing others that if you do come here, you're not just being sat here to be developed and sold on. There is a pathway for you. That's really important, and you need to focus on. Spurs have slept on our homegrown and club trained numbers. Our club train is an issue, and that's only because we haven't been bringing the players through, and we haven't put that focus in there to bring those players through. And I think it's quite well known that, Paratici came in and he changed the structure of how we do things at academy level in terms of more resource, more finance going into it. So that's certainly something the club looks like it's trying to rectify at the moment.
And just a quick shout out to Norman in the comments. There's one of our members who's tuned in from Oz. Like Joe's on from Oz as well, by the way. Norman, if you haven't met Joe before, Joe, meet Norman. So can you find out the facts about club trained? Yeah, our understanding is 3 years before the age of 21, but and one of those years can be a loan as long as it's with another English FA registered club. We will validate that, and the next episode give you a definite answer, but that is our understanding. And I will even post right now in the comments a link which has the descriptions to it and a squad status of every Spurs player in the squad with their kind of club status as well. So I'll put that in the comments in just a second.
Shawnee.
Oh, Shawnee's coming with a donation and a question. Thank you very much, Shawnee. Delhi was Linda loaned before smashing it. Did we didn't loan Delhi to MK Dons? We bought him from MK Dons.
No,
didn't we?
He's bought at 15, I think.
Oh, was he bought at 15 and then went on loan to MK Dons when he was part of Spurs?
Yes. I think he was bought and then he remained at MK Dons for the rest of the season.
I can't believe all this time I assumed we'd signed him from MK Dons at that moment as a permanent transfer. Well, there you go. Thanks for educating me, everyone. That's definitely change something. Cat Funt. Just make sure I pronounce that right.
Yeah,
We've
I'm
had
not going to try with my dyslexia. Try.
Let's try. We've had 143 years. We are playing cricket. We should have bought some. We've had 143 years since we were playing cricket. We should have bought some players. Very good. Glenn, there was a question on the youth side. Wanted to ask you again. I guess, do you feel it's a deterrent these days for clubs to develop young players themselves? That we've seen it this window. City have just gone out and bought a couple of super hot prospects in their teens from other academies, and Spurs do it too. Every club does it. Does that deter clubs from wanting to develop players because you can just buy another academy's best 15, 16-year-old when they've done all the hard work?
I'd like to think not, because obviously that would put me out of a job. But so it's nothing better for us as a club, the club I work for, to produce a player to play for the first team. And I think most clubs want their homegrown players to progress, and I think they almost get more time. Obviously, the song "One of Our Own." I just think our own players mean more to us. So I don't think there's a deterrent in it. I think it should be embraced and push more, really.
So you think there should be a way in which it's encouraged for them to have those other avenues, those other opportunities as well?
Yeah,
or do you think? Yeah,
I think they tried to keep players for longer by making the 23s. But then essentially, if you're playing 23s football at 23, you're probably not gonna make it within the first team.
Yeah,
we're only probably looking at players now. Sort of, we're saying by 17 they should be 1 or 2 years away to play for our first team. So, and I think it's similar with Tottenham. So obviously Mikey's in and around, Bergval's in and around, Vuskovic is in and around. So, there's lots of young players that are being given opportunities to progress at the club.
Interesting. Yeah, and just quick shout to Sean, who's just clarified that club-grown players, if you're an EU member, you can go on loan within the EU to another EU club. That's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Showing that, Shawnee. Yeah, I just always thought, why would, just go back to the youth development? I just thought, why imagine? Well, yeah, being a championship club, you've got an amazing world-class youth facility. You put loads of focus on it, and you built up this player to enter your first team, and then, Spurs come along and just say £500,000, come play for Tottenham. It must be quite frustrating. But then I just think there should be a way that should be considered from all clubs that FA registered.
Yeah,
that there could be more protection given to clubs who have nurtured those players to give those players the opportunity in the first team without them necessarily going to another team's, suddenly becoming another 21 player for some other club that might not be good for their development either, because you might be able to pay them more and offer them less good football, less first team opportunities. Yeah, when you poach them as well.
Yeah. So the only thing they have in place is the compensation. So if the player's been at your club for X amount of years, you'll get X amount of money, depending on what category status you are, as to how many years that player's been. But generally, that's peanuts to the big clubs that come in. And I mean, it can work out to probably be no more than £1 million for a 16 to 17-year-old player. But like Man City will pay one of their players that in wages, so it's nothing to them. But obviously it helps the lower clubs, but then they essentially might say, well, if we could have kept that player for another 2 or 3 years, he then might be worth £10 million, but we couldn't, because these clubs are coming in trying to take those players.
Other than the monetary value, do you think it adds some value to the academy? So say a club, look, we produced this player, even though he left a bit earlier, we added to his skills, and now he has progressed onto a bigger club, but it was earlier. So it can sort of add a bit of value there. And does it also work in the opposite way too? Sort of like the Gibbs White situation, where it's good for the club if there's protections, but some of the players, like there's a reason they put a release clauses in their contracts, is because that gives control to some of the players as well. So they might want to move on from X club because maybe the academy isn't good. So if there's too much protection in there for the clubs, not allowing them to move on, do you think that could work in the opposite way too, though? So a two-parter question for you, Glenn, there.
Yes, so that's probably one of our biggest selling points as a championship club, is that there's a chance that you will play for our first team, and players are progressing. We had Emerson Sutton come off the bench last season, come through our academy.
Are we fine to share who you work for as well, Glenn?
Yeah.
Oh, so Glenn works for QPR. So that's why I've been going, a big club in London, just in case. But yeah, go on, Glenn. Sorry.
So we are very pro sort of youth, and we are giving our youngsters minutes. So that would be, because we can't compete with the badges. That would be one of our selling points, is that, you know, there's a chance that you can become a professional and play for this club at first team level, regardless of what age you come in. We're trying to produce players for our first team, whereas you might go to Chelsea at, say, 9, and you might be out the door by 10. So, you know, it's always kind of a big selling point for us, to say that, we promote our youth players. And I think Spurs do too, to be fair. You know, there's lots of players that got minutes yesterday that have come through the youth system. So,
well, even like Winks and Skip. I know to us, we looked, they didn't make it for Spurs, but they still made it in the Premier League. And not many players.
You've given that person, you've made that person, that's their job now, by just, giving them the facilities and the tools to become the player they are. You've given that opportunity and that way of life and that lifestyle. So, no, it's a great thing that the club are doing. Yeah.
Guys, should we just, in the last 10 minutes, be good to talk about, I think this is going to be more opinion-based, obviously, but Morgan Gibbs-White, everyone's thinking there might be some progress next week. Do we feel that's I'm kind of in the camp of, because if I'd never heard that deal had been close, I would never have expected that kind of deal to ever happen, if you know what I mean. I kind of thought, now I've seen it, I would love another 10, especially one of his profile. I think he elevates the squad terrifically, but I still feel there's 2 or 3 other roles that sit above it in importance for what we need right now. But JJ and Joe, either of you, I'll start with JJ. Like, do you feel Gibbs-White is a must, or if we don't get him, we've got to go find someone else of that profile?
I don't think he's. I was going to say, Joe, I don't think he's a must. I, like you, would love to see Morgan Gibbs-White at the club, because he brings something different, and he brings a level of quality that makes us a better football club. And he's clearly somebody that the manager has wanted for a long time, therefore has a really clear idea of how he would fit in and what he's going to do for him, and how he's going to move us forward. So from those perspectives, yes, I want it to happen. I would love to see it getting over the line. But I agree, he is not the first priority player that we need to be getting through the door. There's a couple of others that we could look at first. And I don't think the Morgan Gibbs-White saga, or whatever it is that's going on, particularly changes your ability to do any of the other work. The only area that changes is if you can't get Morgan Gibbs-White and you desperately want another player in there, because you've already, identified, okay, this midfielder's going, that midfielder's going, or that's what we'll try and do. And therefore we want that type of player coming in as well. Therefore, you're going to have to find someone else if it's not Morgan Gibbs-White. But yeah, for me, he's not the priority, and therefore it's annoying that we didn't get that huge, surge of dopamine of the 2 massive signings in 24 hours. It was wonderful while it lasted. But I'd be delighted if I saw a couple of the other key positions being nailed down, and then we went all the way to deadline day and Morgan Gibbs-White happened then. Now, I'd be totally okay with that.
I think just to add to that, I think when it was happening, I think it's just, for me, showed like a real statement of intent. We just signed Kudus, now we're going to sign Morgan Gibbs-White. It was very un-Spurs-like. that we've kind of gone like full bore. We normally wait so long to sign players. I just thought, wow, are they actually going to now go out and do the business early, get the players in, give them a full pre-season? I hope it happens this week, but we'll just have to wait and see.
You in agreement, Joe?
Yeah, I am. I think the must part is the must of action. I think there can be a different player or a different name on the back of the shirt than Morgan Gibbs White. But I think the must part is that we must sign at least 2 high quality players. And he would be one of them. But I feel like that's what the must part is of it. If it's someone else that ends up being the player, then that's fine. But we need probably another midfielder too. And depending on who, if this is no one sold, if we've got someone sold as well, then we probably need to replace them. Say, example, Richarlison. But I think, the must part is we need to have that intent happening. And they tried to do it, I guess, but then old mate had a tantrum and ruined the fun for us for a little bit. But I guess it means that we can have a little bit more fun. We get double fun if he does sign because we get to have that feeling again, twice the fun. So I am not necessarily saying it has to be him, but he would be good. He would be good addition.
And my understanding of how Frank works with and his team work on transfers, that will be Langer and everyone else involved. But the way Frank is a bit different is he sets his window up into phases, and each phase he has to have certain milestones hit by certain players in by certain phases. So he'd say, right, let's just oversimplify. I have my number 6 by this date. I have this player by this date, and they accelerate through lists to get things over the line. My understanding is next week is quite a pivotal week in that process. That next week is the final week of one of those phases. What that phase is, I have absolutely no idea.
But the first team they're going away, aren't they? So he probably wants most of those players in for when they're going to. I think it's Asia, isn't it? They're going away to. So he probably wants them players in and in that environment before or when they go away. Really, they don't want to probably be the other side of the world, and then the player comes in and then he's halfway through the tour. So that's probably why he wants to get that business done beforehand.
Yeah, and it'll be very telling who's not on the plane there. You suddenly lose a lot of negotiation power and selling, right? Because it becomes very clear to other clubs that player has no value to you at all, and is basically a cost in your books. And I say that if we see someone like Bissouma left behind, I think it would be quite clear what the future is for that player. So one of the comments is they give Richarlison a new contract. We didn't finish that topic, guys. He's an interesting one. He's almost one like I could see any manager loving him, but also wanting to tear their hair out about not being able to utilize him enough. And then you could really understand both sides of this argument. For some people who passionately say, get rid, I hate that term. It's a human being, professional footballer, worth tens of millions of pounds. We're just saying, get rid, Brazilian international. But you can see why some fans would say, we've been through this experiment for a long enough period of time to know it's unlikely he'll ever be consistently available. And you can see why others would say, I've seen him when he's good and it can work. Let's not just get rid of him for the sake of it. Should go just quickly around the room on him. JJ, would you say he's got value to add to us in the upcoming season if he stays? Or do you think Frank will be looking to replace him?
He's definitely got value in the Thomas Frank system. He's a player who is good in the air. He's good with his head. He scores a lot of headed goals. He would definitely be somebody that Thomas Frank would like to lean on as a player for getting crosses into the box and set pieces. So he's got value. He is a very good player. But the main issue is the fitness and the amount of minutes that he actually plays. And therefore, I think both of those scenarios, Jim, are true. Yes, he could add value. Yes, he could be a really successful player. But if you just can't get him out on the pitch, you would look for something else. But for me, you don't look for somebody just for the sake of it. That's the bit not to do. You don't just for the sake of it look for someone else. What you're looking for is of equal or greater impact on the team, and that's not a monetary value on the transfer or the name on how well known that is, but the team that's identifying the players say there is somebody else, that person will provide equal or greater impact in this team and in the system and the setup, and there's somebody that we can go and get, then by all means go and do that business if you can. But you've also got to move players on as well, and that's the other part of the equation. It's not just as easy as saying get rid. You don't just get rid. Players have to be wanted elsewhere, and they have to be bought for the value that the club puts on them.
I just want to jump in there quickly with Sean's question. He said, if £60 million for Morgan Gibbs White needs to pay more than that, would you pivot to Morgan Rogers? Does anyone have an opinion on Morgan Rogers? I can't say I do. So just in case anyone does, if not, we'll have to come
Aston Villa
back to you.
struggling enough to want to sell him, because that would be the only thing. Are they struggling financially enough to let him go? So I don't know whether it's even a possibility to get him in.
I don't think it'd be any cheaper.
No,
That's the thing.
No.
You've got clubs like Bournemouth with a 12,000 seater stadium buying massive clubs like Porto's best striker for 50 million quid. Premier League clubs are loaded up with a lot of broadcasting and commercial revenue now that makes buying players off them particularly expensive. But
speaking of expensive, though, I think Richie, with just back to that, is that he does probably have the most value in a sale too. We could probably get the most money for him, so that could be potentially why a lot of people are saying that we can move him on. But yeah, we would need to sign someone, be our first striker, I think, to replace him, even higher level than Solanke, and that is, again, a lot of money then, and the market isn't full of those options with some players already coming off the board or seemingly coming off the board as options. So the risk reward of selling him with the potential options of coming in, would you bring that person in first before you sell Richie to make sure you have that person, or do you take the risk in selling him and then maybe not bringing someone in? Because then it's Lancashire next. So I think it's a risky game to play with the Richie situation.
What's more risky, being too bloated or too light? And I guess you want to have.
Kind of says.
Yeah, I think you want to be too bloated, right? If you're a club position like Spurs where you're not going to go bankrupt and you can afford to be a bit bloated, I think neither are perfect, but you'd rather have a few too many. Would you keep him, Glenn, Richarlison, next season?
I think he probably the last 2 seasons, he's just been so unfortunate, isn't he, with injuries, breaking down every time. It's not like the club hasn't give him a chance. They've sort of stuck by him for 2 seasons, and it's just not worked, unfortunately. So I think I'd be inclined to, I know we don't like to say let him go. I would have thought those conversations, if they haven't been had, that they would be to agents pretty soon, because they'll be saying, look, you need to find him another club, because we don't really see that there's a place where he's going to get minutes. I think it's probably better to be more bloated. The only flip side of that is you've got to keep those players happy. And then that can obviously, if they're not happy because they're not playing, you then got like a bit of a bad harmony within your dressing room. So it's a bit, I think you need more players because you want to be fighting on 4 fronts. And I think Frank said that he wants to be involved in all the competitions and be competitive. So you need a big squad to do that.
And I do think as well, you can't understate his experience. Like in that final, it might just be that I've never seen Spurs, like supported Spurs through an era of us winning stuff. But I always thought, the experience tagline was really overutilized and didn't actually mean as much as it should. And I used to always kind of roll my eyes when people would say it. And when I saw us actually finally win a trophy like that, I thought, I get it now. I was wrong. I've seen how important Romero's experience was. I've seen how important Richarlison's experience was. All these, and you mentioned it, Glenn, I think. Was it when we first checked? You said at the end of no, it wasn't you. It was we had an ex. He's now a youth coach, but he's an ex Spurs Academy player, and he was saying, or it might have been you, Glenn, I can't remember. But he was saying, end of each week, the academy kids would play the coaches, and the coaches would typically be, ex-pro professional players, and the academy team would always get walloped every week at Spurs. every week, the academy team, and they'd be playing men in their 40s, and it wasn't down to their ability to run, it was their ability to manage a game and their ability to it was all the small nuanced things that they could just outthink a 16-year-old running around with lots of energy and ability. And you do see it.
It wasn't me that said it.
It was, it wasn't
me.
It was.
But I know that they. So whenever it was last season, I know whenever it was a Champions League night, they would have the team, or the Europa League, sorry. So they'd have the teams that were in the Europa League, and they would have to try and they'd play matches against each other, and then they'd have to try and get points. So it was like a competitive game every Champions League, Europa League night, where they basically was just trying to instill winning into them. And that was something that I went to see one of their sessions last season, and they showed us this thing that they was doing with the Europa League teams and trying to make them sort of a winning culture sort of thing. And that was like their foundation phase, 9s, 10s, 11s.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. Well, you said it before. One of the interesting things I took away from the last one was, I can't believe under 4 years old, you're already looking at kind of like a player's parents and like how tall are they going to be?
Yeah.
How quick are they going to be?
Goalkeepers, you're sort of looking at normally the mum. A boy's never shorter than his mum, so that's normally the minimum height that they'll be. That you don't know sometimes that the dad may not be the actual dad, but the mum's normally the mum. And yes, we normally go, okay, mum's fairly tall, the boy's probably going to be a good size. Yeah.
Do you line the dads up and be like, right, 100-meter sprint, first one over the line gets 50 quid?
Yeah. Not quite, but look, we do sort of say like, look, he's a late developer. The parents sometimes sort of say, oh, he was very similar to me, and I'm now 6'2" or whatever. So sometimes you go like, okay, so he's going to grow to a size sort of thing. Not that size is massively important, but it is for a goalkeeper.
Well, guys, we'll wrap up with one more question for the panel everyone wants to answer. I'm keen to know who you think who will win at the end of the season, Tottenham's player of the season, based on one friendly and pretty much one press conference. So not held accountable. We can change these bets, but go on, Joe. Who are you going for, mate? Who's going to win player of the season for Spurs? Player of the season and young player of the season.
I'm trying to go rogue in a sense, but I'm going to go Porro.
Ooh.
I feel Frank likes those crosses from that sort of, I'm going to not get the technical term for it, but I feel like it's called the half space. Is that right, JJ? Yes.
JJ, what's the half space mean?
The area between two players. Don't worry.
What we're going to do, we're going to go over all the things you should know that you pretend to know as a football fan. So
I need to be listening to that one.
The double pivot, the half space, there's endless. I think like everyone just says we need a 6 because about 3 years ago, everyone learned what a 6 and an 8 were by the name of 6 and an 8. And then every podcast, every Sky pundit was going like, that's the 6 and that's the 8. Like they were really chuffed themselves that they kind of learnt this way of saying a defensive midfielder who's a playmaker or whatever it is, and making it sound like they really knew their onions. And I feel like there's tons of those things we could go through and make people feel like we've all learned a lot. But anyway, so Joe, you're going
back
for
to Pedro Porro. I feel like he'll get the most goal contributions out of any fullback in the league. That's what I'm predicting.
Right,
and I think he's a very good professional and he really wants to develop all the time. So his defending will go up a notch too. And I feel like I'm just going to put a shout out for him. And then young player, I'm saying Vuskovic. I guess Bergvall doesn't count anymore because he's already won it. I guess he can win it twice. How old's the young player count as?
Normally under 21s.
I won't say Bergvall because that's easy. I'll go Vuskovic. I'm saying he's staying around and he'll play 15 games and he'll be great in them.
Okay, you're going for Vuskovic and Porro. JJ, who are you going for, mate?
Well, because Joe stole one of mine there, I'll change it just to make it interesting. But I'll go nice and simple. Player of the season, Kudus will be because he'll excite, and if he scores a few goals and gets plenty of assists, I think the fans will vote for him certainly. And then young player of the season, I was I was going to go with Vuskovic off that game, but I'll go with Bergvall instead.
Bergvall it is. Cool. Glenn?
I think if he can stay fit, I would say Van der Ven. I just think he's exceptional. And then young player, if he can get enough minutes, I'll go Mikey Moore.
What age do you pass not qualifying for the young player award? Because Van der Ven must be borderline for both, right?
He's 23, is he?
Something
20?
like that, yeah.
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 So
he's just turned 24.
I'd say for me, it's 21 and below, young player.
Okay.
But they're getting younger and younger all the time. So
yeah.
Because you could have, like you said, Bergvall won it last year, and he's 18, 19 still. So,
Yeah.
But because he's played so much now, you don't realise what age he actually is.
Mm. And like with Tell not playing against Reading, we're like, oh yeah, we forgot that he isn't a player for us as well. So Tell could obviously be one of those guys as well. And he, with his sort of hype around him, he seems older than he is as well.
Yeah.
Jim, who are you saying?
I'm going to Tell. I think he'll be the most improved although the left wing's such an interesting spot next season. There's so many question marks over that position still in my head. But I'm going to go for Tell and senior player. Could be a bit boring and say Romero. I think
our defense is going to be amazing if we all get this right, isn't it? We've got Van der Ven, Porro, Romero, Vuskovic.
Interesting. Frank's Brentford only conceded 8 less goals than us last season. Make of that what you will. But obviously we had far superior players when fit in defence. And it's the most, I can't, and I'm sure JJ and Glenn as professionals, you tear your hair up with it, but I forget to put where I really tear my hair up with the comparisons of this manager or this player's better than the other one because they did this better statistically in a completely different team. And it's like, oh my God, but there's just so many variances that mean you can't just be like total goals for this player and this player for different clubs in different competitions. It just doesn't really work like that with different players behind them and everything else. But let us know in the comments who yours are in your young player of the season and senior player of the season for Spurs. But I think that's it, guys. We're going to wrap up there. Thanks very much again. It's a brilliant Glenn. He's been, I'll make sure I pin the first video of Glenn there because it's super interesting talking about youth football because Glenn works for QPR as a youth scout there. And it's just so many interesting insights into the journey of that players go through and coaches go through and scouts go through to help these players get into the first teams of these clubs. And JJ, as always, our winner. JJ, you don't have a trophy to hand. You meant to hold it up at the end.
Got it. It's behind me, Jim. Don't worry. It's there. It's
your wife's thrown it away, hasn't she?
She's put it in the bin. Yeah.
She put it in. It's gone. It's gone. So JJ, who's you guys all voted your favourite contributor to Oso Spurs last season. So thanks very much, JJ, for coming on again. And of course, Joe, co-host today, and we're going to be doing this as a weekly format, aren't we, Joe? The White Hart Lane Weekly, we're going to call this show. Wrapping up. A couple
of professional Spurs fans.
Yes, there you go. That's what we are. Anyway, up the Spurs, guys, and roll on Luton. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.